Bill McCartney back with you again for the final heat, the fourth heat of the Townsville Challenge, the first event on the national circuit of racing for 18-foot skiffs. They're getting ready for a start, so here we go for the fourth heat of the Townsville Challenge. And with me again is our expert commentator, Warwick Rooklyn.
And lining up for the start, skilled engineering, better be careful there, Andrew DeVola, an onboard head cam with Prima.
Get ready about.
They're in trouble.
Let's get out of here, boys. Ready? Let's go.
And Prima immediately deciding to head out. Oh, and something happened there. It looked like the head cam came adrift, and coming adrift also is skilled engineering over on the right. She's got tangled up with the start boat's anchor line, and that's a disastrous start for Andrew DeVola. The second day in a row she's got tangled up with the line one way or another, and bad luck for them, because I know they were very keen to put a big performance on the board after yesterday's shark line hookup, and also going out to the right-hand side, just in front of them, Ella Bachet. Cruising Rangoon Restaurant, starting at the back end of the fleet, but able to get clear air and head off up the track on a starboard tack breeze coming across her right-hand side. Up ahead, the early leader, Bank of New Zealand, and over to their left, I believe we'll find that Xerox and Prudential are also doing well.
Yes, and plenty of strife there for Prima and Andrew DeVola. I think we'll have to name that DeVola's Triangle there, 2 days in a row. Big trouble. Prima tacking back again, and Ella Bachet crossing in front. But out front, it's Bank New Zealand and Xerox. The breeze a little bit lighter, and this could be the advantage for the Bank of New Zealand and the one that Scott Ramsden's after.
Slightly out to the left of these blokes. Dave Cummins on the helm. Dave Slennett just moving in to make an adjustment on the rig to hopefully make a rig that's going slow go a little bit faster.
Yeah, well, you better be careful there, because the mast isn't standing up well at all, and actually Prudential doing a little bit better than I thought in the early stages. Maybe the bigger rig, the second sail compared to everybody else's third sail, which is a smaller sail, will be helping them while the breeze is light.
And this is a great little race going on here, because it does appear that the extra sail area being carried on Prudential is giving them just a little more grunt, and they're gradually getting out ahead of Xerox, and it shouldn't be too long before the wind coming off the sails of Prudential will start to affect the flow of air onto the sails of Xerox, and thus their progress will be substantially hampered. But that is not the situation yet. If the pressure builds a bit, then Xerox's pace will build also, and the situation will change again. But just now, Prudential going great guns. In second position, Xerox. Third is Bank of New Zealand. The rest of the fleet has gone out to the right. Yes,
you can see Xerox there, and Phil Barnett looking over his shoulder. Xerox is dropping down into the dirty air of Prudential, the forward hand in off the wing. We can see the forward hand, Dave Slennon, pointing out, trying to pick the wind shifts. Xerox will have to get out of there very soon. They're going to be getting ready for attack, I think. Phil Barnett just having a look around. They've got to worry about the Bank of New Zealand, which is just behind them. If they tack, they will have to give way to the Bank of New Zealand. So troubled time. A lot of action going on board the Xerox now, and they're certainly in dirty air, Bill.
Big Dave Gibson yelling instructions there, but I think their problem is that if they're swallowing dirty air at the moment, getting ready for attack now, finally getting ready for attack. And here they go, decided to stop swallowing the gas off Prudential and get out to the right-hand side. But I guess the choice is you swallow gas, and oops, there goes the Bank of New Zealand. And indeed, Bank of New Zealand crosses and is now in second position. Xerox is third. And I guess the thing is that now Prudential tacks also, and Prudential goes in front of Bank of New Zealand. So Prudential definitely the leader, but not much in it.
No, there's not much, and in this light breeze, we saw Bank of New Zealand winning the second heat as they go around to the attack now. The boys running across there. They've got to be very agile. They've got to be a combination of learning how to play chess, be a gymnast, and a lot of strength involved, so a lot of different skills required.
These skiffs now, hopefully, from the point of view of the skippers, headed for that ley line. Now, the big question is whether or not Xerox out to the right of Scott Ramsden and Prudential also out to the right of Scott Ramsden make that mark. If they do, they'll be famous.
And back with race 4, Prima, after smashing the head cam at the start, is sailing nicely. Starting to have a good battle with Queensland Events, which is just out of screen at the moment. And there they are. Going to be a close contest between these two. And there's a good shot of the wave piercer with some of the crowd watching the Townsville event. Prima just smashing through the waves. The breeze is picking up. Ella Bachet is starting to come back across. We can see that if it's a close contest, Prudential will have to give way to Ella Bachet. And it looks like Xerox has climbed out and got a nice lead. Bank of New Zealand there, looks like they've overlaid it. In other words, they've travelled more than they have to, and that's just going to give vital time away to Phil Barnett, who's leading the contest.
Indeed, Prudential has fallen behind Ella Bache. So Adrian Cahalan went out to the right early and obviously found a nice, kind little puff of breeze, and that's pushed her back up into contention in this race. Crossed just slightly ahead of Prudential there and is now battling it out with Prudential and Bank of New Zealand for second, third and fourth. Xerox up ahead, getting very close to the top mark. They've taken a comprehensive lead in this race. They were crossed by Prudential. Prudential gassed them earlier and they looked like they were gone, and Phil Barnett had a big dose of the smarts. He picked the angle beautifully, and there he goes round the top mark without a further tack. That was a great call by Phil Barnett.
It certainly was good tactics, so it's not just boat speed. They've got the tactics down, they've got the boat handling down, but there's going to be a good battle for second place. Bank of New Zealand sailing over the top of Prudential. Ella Bache, even though they were ahead a minute ago, had to travel further, do one more tack, so Prudential will come round third. Ella Bache not far behind, there's not much in this. Prudential, it's Dave Slennett starting to run in. Well, Bank of New Zealand's going for it early. Prudential sails over the top, so a little mistake, I believe, from the Bank of New Zealand. Dave Cummins is going to sail Prudential over the top of the Bank of New Zealand, get into an advantageous position. Ella Bache's right there. Xerox is going for the spinnaker now. The boats will sail a triangular course where they have to zigzag up to the top mark, into the wind, go round the top mark, which they've already done now, and are heading down to the wing mark. They will turn what we call a jibe. In other words, when they turn, when the wind's behind them, head for the bottom mark and up to complete one lap. They will do that twice.
And in the interim, the race is wide open here, except for the fact that Xerox has opened up a pretty good gap up ahead, but now it's the question mark again. When do they set spinnakers? Looking as though Bank of New Zealand out on the right there has made that decision. There's the big bluey coming out. So she's made the decision earlier than Prudential. Prudential choosing to continue out to the left. With her bigger number 2 rig, of course, she generates more pressure once that spinnaker's up, so she has to be a little more judicious with it all. Ella Bache also deciding to go further out to the left. I would have thought with Bank setting down below them like that Adrian had to make the decision to set the kite, otherwise she's going to lose them. And look how high they're getting up on the course now. I mean, if Ella Bache have got this wrong, they've got it super wrong.
They seem to have a bit of problem getting the bag open on Ella Bache. We saw in one of the earlier races that Neil McDonald was in there for quite a while trying to get that bag open before they could pull the spinnaker up, and it's happened again today. But a good race is developing between Bank of New Zealand and Prudential. Prudential electing to wait a little bit longer seems to have paid off for them.
Now you can see the size of the rigs and the difference. Look how much bigger and higher the Prudential mast is and bigger the sails are. Now in theory, because of that, she's got number 2 in and Bank of New Zealand's got 3. She should be a lot faster, but that wasn't evident in what we were watching just a moment ago. Ella Bache back up and running again. Spinnaker set for a moment, flagging, then back up again, but she's only about 20 or 30 metres off the stern of these two, battling it out for second and third at the moment. Prudential doing slightly better. Well,
Dave Cummins did a good job of calling that then. He waited a little bit longer, sailed over the top of the Bank of New Zealand, got clearer air and is able to accelerate down. Now the Bank of New Zealand has to point up and come around behind Prudential, so there's been a place change there. Prudential goes up into second place.
So Prudential in with a fighting chance here. Her pace earlier in the race looked pretty good, then it looked bad when they crossed across onto that port tack. Now it's looking good again, but just now, Bank of New Zealand, Scotty Ramsden got all 3 boys fully powered up on the wings, generating everything he possibly can. Foot to the floor and starting to sail past Prudential. What a turn-up this is. Prudential with more sail area, can't hold them out. Scott Ramsden getting into second position and sailing a great race.
Yes, so the lack of speed for Prudential upwind is also seems to be the lack of speed downwind as well, Bill. So Rob Brown, watching from the wave piercer, will be wondering what's going on, because they pulled the right manoeuvres as far as tactics go, but just got absolutely burnt off when they shouldn't have by the Bank of New Zealand.
That was a terrific move by Scott Ramsden and his team. Xerox up ahead doesn't have to involve itself in any of this drama, and here we are at the wing mark with these 2 skiffs battling it out for second and third, and what a ding-dong it is. And this time it's Prudential back in there. Prudential sails over the top of them, steals their breeze, sends them nearly in backwards, and off they go down the track, back up into second position.
Yes, well, Prudential had the inside running there at the turn. They were able to turn inside of the Bank of New Zealand, steal its wind, and so you saw the Bank of New Zealand falling back in to windward. In other words, they had too much weight out there and there was no wind in the sail, so it just fell in backwards and stopped immediately as soon as those wings hit the water.
And back with this exciting encounter in the fourth heat of the Townsville Challenge. Xerox still leading, but it looks as though those two behind, battling it out, have made up a bit of territory on Xerox. They're trying to go as fast as they can, and they're doing some damage. But at this point in time, Prudential this time holding Bank of New Zealand out for that second position. Nothing in it at all. We're getting down to a point now where all they can do is hammer the boat speed and then hope that the crew on board both vessels will drop that spinnaker smoothly, because that's where it'll be determined at the next mark. Who does the best spinnaker drop?
Geez, that's a great shot of the boats there. You can see Ella Bachet and Xerox jumping out of the water. You can see the centreboard that stops the boats from going sideways coming out of the water there. And they're really honking along, pushing it over the way. Xerox going for the drop. Two boys running in, the forward hand pulling the spinnaker around to get it all sort of snaked up and then pull it straight down so it doesn't go over the side and into the bag. These things, if they lose control of the spinnaker and it goes over the side, it's just like a big fishing net and will drag the boat straight in and capsize them.
That's a beautiful set on board Xerox, and young Dave Ewings in the bow has been doing a superb job all season, has improved dramatically over last year. Now here's the crucial drop. Prudential and Bank of New Zealand. Bank of New Zealand in this series so far has been dropping a bit early, but they've held it this time, and they're virtually in unison with Prudential as they go for it, and whoever gets it bagged first will be able to get up on the breeze and set off after these blokes and get into second position.
Well, Bank of New Zealand got the inside running there, and you can see Ella Bachet left their drop very late indeed. A little bit of trouble getting it down now. Very bold move to leave it that late. Now it's coming down, they're starting to get it in, and they've moved ahead of Prudential, I believe. So Prudential has gone from second to fourth place in a matter of 30 or 40 seconds.
And it was the angle that was so crucial. The luxury for Phil Barnett on Xerox is that he can look back and watch all this going on and watch more things going on now as Prudential, with her extra power and the bigger sail, starts to get over the top of Ella Bachet. If she gets to a certain point and can block her breeze, then she's going to slip back up into third position, but fair to say at this stage, no problem at all as they round the bottom mark that Prudential has indeed slipped back up into third position, and Bank of New Zealand in clear second.
And there's Xerox just out there in nice clear air, and it's all happening all behind them. And that's not going to worry Phil Barnett one little bit. He wants the battle to continue so he can just sail off, do his own job. You can see him there pulling one of those lines on. That controls what we call the boom vang, which controls the back of the sails, just like a big wing with flaps and so forth. And they control the power and the shape of the sail with all the control lines.
A bit like changing gears, Warwick.
Absolutely. As the breeze increases, they have to flatten the sails or move the shedding position. And as the breeze eases, they have to deepen the sails for more power.
Well, that's interesting, because there's Bank of New Zealand fully powered up, carrying the smaller number 3 rig. Earlier we saw Prudential not fully powered up, Dave Slennon having to sit in. They've got the giant number 2 on, so that mast must be just like a big piece of licorice up there.
Yes, and as you said, it is like a piece of licorice. It's not standing up well, and that means that they have no control over the sail, and that's bad news for these guys. Going through the tack now, Dave Cummins doing his best to try and keep a slow Prudential up with the front runners.
60% of the way through this race, Xerox a clear leader. Prudential battling it out with Bank of New Zealand for second, at the moment in third position. Prima Drinks coming through in sixth position, just briefly through picture. But Bank of New Zealand did fabulously down that last run with the spinnakers and got up into second, tacking now. Cameron McDonald coming through, hooking up, smooth as silk. Scott Ramsden also. Charlie Diekman got a bit of a problem here. Where's Charlie gone? Oh, hello, he's on the wrong side of the boat, clearing a lead. What happened there, Warwick?
Well, I think it was not actually his sheet. I think it was the sheet hand's rope, Cameron's, that got caught around the end of the wing, and he needed that in case they needed to let the sheet off.
Yeah, let's do it.
So they had to send Charlie in to fix that up, and that's no good for them. Prudential tacking again. Obviously the breeze is oscillating a fair bit, and they're trying to pick the eyes out of the breeze.
Yes, the breeze changing direction and strength constantly, and the boys having to move to stay with it. Skilled engineering back on the track, copping a bit of gas off the big vessel in the background, spectator vessel there. Xerox going on the other side of it in clear air and leading comprehensively, but after that crook start, Skilled engineering struggling to get back up to the leaders, but Andrew DeVola, the skipper, obviously always doing his utmost. Prudential coming across, the breeze coming over their right-hand side. You can see the white caps coming from where the breeze is. And at this point in time, these guys have to start thinking about when they tack, because they've crossed behind Bank of New Zealand. Here they are, crossing behind Bank of New Zealand, so they're still in third position. The next question is, when can we make the ley line? There they are. Xerox up the top in white has tacked across and is going to make the top mark. Prudential in red still coming up, has to pick that angle. Bank of New Zealand in blue still coming out. She's got 2 more tacks to do, and that could prove disadvantageous. But here we go, the debate between the team on board Prudential. When do we tack?
Yes, and they've got to pick this just right, because if they go too far, they just throw away time. If they don't go far enough, they're going to do 2 more tacks, and that wastes about 45 seconds in these boats by the time you turn them and get them up to speed again. But we can see there the lighter patches and the darker patches on the water. The dark patches are more breeze and the light patches are the little holes in the breeze. So they've got to work with it and get the angles just right.
Bank of New Zealand, well and truly in command of 2nd position in the final heat of the Townsville Challenge, and at this point in time that means that they're going to be in 2nd position in this event overall. There are the current placings, and of course up ahead Xerox going absolutely great guns, and she appears to have the Townsville Challenge in the bag along with the $15,000 prize money that's up for grabs.
Very average set for Prudential, and we're not used to seeing this. Normally they're very quick and very clean. It wasn't a bad set, but fairly average by their terms.
Now during the break, these 2 skiffs came round this top mark locked together. Prudential and Bank of New Zealand were locked together. Prudential chose to sail up much higher on the course. Once again, the old debate about when do you time it. Xerox already around the wing mark and headed down towards the finish line. Prudential chose to go up much higher than Bank of New Zealand. Bank of New Zealand set their spinnaker earlier, and I think right there we've seen the final results of this race in terms of 2nd and 3rd, as Bank of New Zealand now reaches the wing mark and changes direction to head down to the bottom end of the course.
Well, you can tell by how close they were to that wing mark that they got the angle just right, Bill. And certainly Prudential has sailed a little bit further than they had to, and with that average set of the spinnaker, they lost more time. So unless there's a major mistake, as Prudential is about to go through the jibe, through it they go. And a good jibe for the boys in Prudential, but I think unless we have a mistake, and a fairly major one really, by the boys on Bank of New Zealand, seeing them being dragged off the course now, I think it's going to be Xerox first, Bank of New Zealand second, and Prudential third.
Phil Barnett looking around, and everywhere he looks, he likes what he sees. He looks behind, he sees Skiffs behind him. He looks ahead, and there's just a lovely big blank piece of water. There he goes, round the bottom mark. Now they've got the 2-sail reach across to the finish mark, about 200 metres up ahead of them, and not too much can stop them now. The spinnaker drop on board Prudential underway. Big Dave Gibson in the middle for Xerox, pulls the sheet on as the breeze eases out. There's the finishing mark, and through they go, and Xerox takes out the final heat of the Townsville Challenge, and they take out the whole of this event as well. And as you can see, 3 very happy young men indeed.
Well, that'll be the biggest regatta he's won, I think, in his career, and certainly a very dominating performance from all the boys on Xerox, and the speed, the crew work, the tactics. As we see Prudential come across 3rd, and Rob Brown, even though he's a very determined character, he's got a lot of homework to do. Ella Bachet coming in 4th, Prima and Skilled fighting it out for 5th and 6th.
In actual fact, Queensland Events is in between these 2 in 5th, and this is 6th and 7th positions, and 6th and 7th positions also being fought out in the Townsville Challenge overall, and a great little contest going on here between the 2 of them. The final results of race 4, Xerox, victory in the race, victory in the series. Scott Ramsden has done extremely well to finish in 2nd position in both this race and indeed in the series, 14 points behind the Xerox. And back on shore we've found the skipper of the Xerox, Phil Barnett, and he's a very happy young man.
John, there she is, a Grand Prix sailing Rose Bowl.
You happy, man?
Mate, very happy actually. Yeah, it's been not all that easy, but yeah, we're pretty happy. We've got a long way to go though to win the whole circuit.
Just how well did the boat go? I mean, certainly out there it looked like you were really generating some pace.
Yeah, I can't say enough about the boat and the sails from Fraser's, and you know, Michael Carter's put a lot of effort into the boat and designed all the rigs and come up with something that's really competitive.
A very popular win indeed for Phil Barnett and his team on Xerox. He is one of the nicest people in the sport, and it's a very popular victory. The rest of the boys have their next opportunity when we resume the national circuit of racing for 18-foot skiffs in Hobart. We hope to see you then.